Andrew Parkinson, part two with Parky. Uh, we've gone through all our predictions for the NBL finals this year, but I guess what I would like to also move on to, one of the first things I saw you said to me when I saw you on Thursday night at the game was you had some good news. So we've heard you say in the past you may see me struggle, but I'll never quit. Please update the people on how you've been going in your recent health battles over the past few years.
Yeah, well, you've been with me for the whole battle, TB. So I don't mind talking to you about. I don't mind talking to anyone about it really, but particularly with you, I don't mind talking about it. But yeah, no, when I saw you, the other night, I was more than happy to give people the good news because a lot of people like yourself
Mhm.
have travelled this journey with me over the last 6 years, and there haven't always been great news. So whenever there is a chance to get a win or have some great news, I'm more than happy to share it. So
Mhm.
so yes, I did. I had a recent scan. My recent PET scan was clear,
Yep.
which is great because I finished treatment now well over a year ago. And for me to be cancer free at this point in this journey, for me, for what I was told, is pretty good, mate. So I'm
Mm.
hoping there's a lot more NBL final series that I can enjoy,
Yep.
because without having too much fun with it, I was told that I was probably going to expire by 2022, which is
Yep.
3 years ago now. So
Mhm.
I feel like I'm rolling in a bit of bonus time, but yeah, no, I'm more than happy to share that news, and yeah, it's definitely given me a good lift as well because I do get a bit anxious when it comes to waiting for the results of these scans because
Mhm.
in the past they haven't always gone my way. So I've
Mhm.
got to give a quick shout out to my mum. She passed away over 2 years ago now, but ever since she's passed away, I've had clear scans. So I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, TB.
I don't think they see our
Someone,
coincidence, my friend.
someone's up there looking after me, mate. This never
Mhm.
happened. I've never had this sort of this luck or
Mhm.
haven't had clear scans. As I said, I never, up until mum passed away, I've never had two clear scans in a row, and I've now had three. So she's setting records, and I feel like I've got a bit of a guardian angel looking over me. So
Mhm.
I yeah, and she would be the first person that would listen to this podcast. Anything I ever did, media wise, she would be into it. So the good thing is she can watch this and she can watch it live while we're recording it.
Excellent. It's probably a bit like your mum, where she cuts out. Sorry, my mum, where she cuts out all the newspaper articles. Even my mum now still. Oh, Dash Daniels has been in the paper. Do you want me to save it for you and all that sort of stuff? They do love it, our mum. So,
Aunt Mum's great, mate. I miss mine to death. So give your mum a hug for me, mate, next time you see her, and
absolutely.
and enjoy every moment.
All right. Well, thoughts obviously with you and the family, and we will move into that a little bit. But I mean, I do like how you, as my sister might say, a couple of free spins on the pokies. That you're still, I guess, playing
Couple
with
of
them.
features.
Yeah, that's it. But and if anyone wants to listen to, I guess, deeper part of that story, there is some great interviews on YouTube that you've done in the past, particularly talking about having organs worked on or replaced, and I guess the value of being able to see your daughter's 21st birthday and some of those great life achievements, which I know you've discussed in full, but I mean, we're here to talk a little bit more about your basketball career. But
Yeah.
anything else you'd like to just, I guess, touch on whilst we're talking about the battle? And actually, one thing I would like to probably just on the back of what you've said though is it does show the value of we had the golf day in what was that? Was that 2019? I've still got a picture of Parky.
2021. It was four years ago.
That's right, 2021. And just goes to show the value of, I guess, not just the basketball community, but our collective community getting behind people and supporting one another and just how positivity can radiate and it just can help people persevere.
Spot on, mate. And look, it was 4 years ago now, but to those people, you included, who were involved in that day, a lot of my so-called adversaries, the Melbourne Tigers guys, Giants guys.
Mhm.
Look, the referees got a group together to come along. I got support from, the whole basketball fraternity, not just the superstars like Brad Key and Copeland and Gaze and all the names that everyone knows, but
Yep.
the referees, you know, previous teammates of mine, the Giants guys, just basically a lot of people rallied around me, And look, not only did it help raise much needed funds that I needed for all my treatments and surgeries and things over the last sort of few years, but it really gave me an emotional or moral boost, I guess, if you want to, to know that the basketball fraternity, and there's a lot of people sort of in your corner, pushing for you, really gave me a lift, and it, in some ways more important than the actual funds that they were raising for me.
Yeah.
And I can't mention that without bringing up Homicide Williams, who for me is I get emotional talking about him, but it was a true inspiration. He actually told me one day that I was an inspiration for him, and he really helped me in the early years of my diagnosis. And then to be able to see him, we actually did a golf day for him, same venue, same people, and we actually did a golf day for him. And I don't think people knew this at the time, but the day before the golf day, he was told that the treatments he was on, they were going to stop because they weren't working, and he was basically given a month or so to live. He only lived another 2 or 3 weeks, mind you, after that golf day. So, and credit to Nigel Purchase, so I've got to mention him, and all his support crew that helped do the day for me and also for Homicide. But to see him that day, I had a special moment with him. He still came to that golf day, and he didn't let on to anyone that he'd been told the worst news a cancer patient. The worst news a cancer patient can be told, and I haven't been told this, but I was a bee's wing away from being told exactly what he was told, and that is, there's nothing more we can do. You're basically just going to die, and that's what happened to him. And for him to still show up to his golf day and to make people laugh, he made people cry as well, but he made people laugh, and for him to still show up to that day knowing that he didn't have long to live. In fact, he only lived another 2 to 3 weeks, and then we were at his funeral. So that was something, so for me, when I get good news like I have, and I get the luck that I have, and I get to live my life, I don't forget all the people, all the cancer soldiers that I guess we've lost. I throw Mark Leader in there, who recently passed away about a year or so ago. So, yeah, there's been a lot of people, a lot of families and a lot of people, whether any community, whether it's a basketball community or not, are touched by this terrible disease. And I'm one of the lucky ones, but I don't forget the people that got behind me, and I don't forget the people that we leave behind either. So sorry to get all emotional on your TV, but
that's all right, mate.
But I do think of him a lot. And look, let's be honest, he spoke a lot of shit. Okay, Homicide spoke a lot of shit on TV, but boy, do we miss him. I really do miss him. Even though he did speak a lot of shit, but he was, and he still is to this day, very inspirational for me, and particularly what he did. Last year, was only last year. A year ago to this day, he was still around talking, around, and now he's gone. So it's a serious business, this cancer stuff, mate. So, and like I said, I'll take my wins whenever I can, but I definitely don't forget the people that have gone before me.
Well, he did always have a smile for anyone, really, particularly if you love basketball. It was extra special, whether it was at the Summer Jam or an NBL game or even down at the old Two-Wrongs. You'd always be able to see him floating around Chapel Street somewhere and loving the game, or whether it was in New York. And, he was Homicide. Rob Brown was Wolverine. We're actually talking about this last night when they were up in Townsville and crossing paths. And, and I guess back to what you're saying in regards to the support, as someone whose little sister basically grew up for most of her early childhood in hospital, and dad who's had a kidney transplant. Definitely when people get around you, it's something special, and it's unfortunate it's these type of things that do bring people together or unite the Tigers with the Magic or whatever it might be. But
who would have thought that Ray Gordon and I were going to be hugging and crying and telling each other, that we love each other and what we mean to each other and things like that. So I think a lot of that gets lost. Look, I love being a competitor. I love competing, and so did Ray Gordon. So did a lot of people that play the game. But no, it's a great community to be involved in, the basketball community, and I'm not going to start sort of thanking people because I'm going to leave people out. But there's lots of people, starting from the Phoenix and United, all the way down to my grassroots club, the Knox Raiders.
Yep.
I only had a year with the Bendigo Braves, but I feel an affinity towards the Bendigo program and those people. I got to see Ricky Daniels at the game the other night because, of course, he was there supporting his son, or his youngest son, Dash, who's a development player now at United. So to have my old teammate, my old Bendigo Braves teammate Ricky Daniels there to say good day to and see him was a highlight. So no, I feel very blessed and I feel very lucky. And the basketball community is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, and all the hospital staff that help support everyone along the way. We can't thank you enough. But
the nurses are they're guardian angels. Some of these nurses that I've come across anyway. It's it's an amazing. It's been an amazing journey, and I like the fact that you remembered my saying because I still live by that day by day, and that is that you may see me struggle, but you never see me quit. And I think that's something that's good for any youngster to take on, whether they're playing sport or whatever it is that they're involved in, whatever industry. I think it's always good to, life's tough at times. People struggle with all sorts of different things, whether it's cancer or illness or relationships or whatever it may be, abuse or, there's lots of things. But as long as people out there realise that as long as you don't quit, something good can always come out of it.
Like the old Jimmy V speech, don't give up, don't ever give up.
I know that speech just about word for word, and I love it. It obviously meant a lot to me before I got cancer, but obviously now, seeing these sort of motivational things. Stuart Scott had another great one at the ESPYs where he spoke about you don't lose your battle when you die of cancer. You win your battle by the way in which you live with cancer, and I think that was something that I've tried to sort of live with, and that's why people like Homicide Williams. That come, that have experienced that. You sort of, I think it's very inspirational when you hear a lot of these stories.
Norm Macdonald has a joke because he obviously had cancer as well, but he says that he doesn't like it when people say that people lose their battle to cancer because when you pass away, the cancer dies too. So at worst case, it's a tie. So
it's funny you mentioned that. I mentioned that my mother, who I've already mentioned, she passed away with lung cancer, and after never smoking, but that's the way it felt. But that was something I mentioned at her funeral. Actually, was that she didn't lose her battle with cancer because she won it because of the way in which she lived right up until the last breath she took. So so I'm totally all for that too, mate. I think that's definitely. That's definitely the way to look at things too.
Yep. Well, whilst we're on your parents, so your father, Howard?
Yes.
And your mother's name?
Is Patricia.
Patricia. And they both played for Victoria, is that correct?
Yes, they did. Yeah. And that's how they met. So I guess I wouldn't be around if it wasn't for basketball. So I owe my life to basketball. And as it's turned out, I've gained so much from the sport. We've already spoken about, the basketball community, but it was great. And Dad was the one that taught me how to shoot the right technique when I was younger. And so I can be thankful for him teaching me how to shoot. And he also provided a great motivation because he was actually a reserve, an emergency for the '64 Olympic team.
And Barry Barnes the coach then?
Yeah, Barry Barnes was in that team.
The team,
and Billy White, that sort of crew, and and then 28 years later, the same thing happened to me. I was an emergency, or I was, one of the last cut. I was down to the last sort of 15 or 16 for the Barcelona for the '92 team. So it's so we both just missed out on the Australian team, but I can tell you on this podcast, TB, that I'm actually going to represent Australia in the green and gold. At the FIMBA Masters Games in June, July in Switzerland.
Oh, congratulations. Excellent.
Thank you. So the last scan that I had that was just clear, that then gave me the green light, or the green and gold light, to be able to go away and play in this tournament. So
who's coaching that?
Haven't got a scan till after that. I don't think the coach has been named yet. I think Mike Ellis has coached before. We're trying to get in Greg Goorjian, who's a brother of Brian Goorjian. We're trying to get him to coach. But
what's the rule to be in? Is it like players like Anstey and Wertho that you play in those Masters tournaments? Do they qualify?
Yeah, I tried to get those guys involved. I still haven't given up on Anstey because I've got a feeling in the world he's just turned 50, and I've got a feeling that I would put him as probably the best, if not one of the top five. Well, I'd have him as the best over 50 player in Masters basketball. At that age group. So Shane Bright, who I peg as probably the best point guard in over 50s, along with Tim Barber.
Yeah. So is that how it works? There's an over 50 group and like a 40 to 50, 50 plus? How does that?
Yep, I think there's a 45 team, a 50 team, 55 and 60s. I know Dave Simmons and Butch Hayes have gone away previously in the over 60s teams. And played in these tournaments, represent the green and gold, which is great. And like I said, it's a little bit of unfinished business for the Parkinson family. So I'll be wearing number 8, which is not my number. I wore number 14, but I'm going to wear number 8, which was my father's number. Just as a bit of a sort of a acknowledgement to him. So
beautiful.
So that's something I'm going to sort of obviously train for, and we're going to give it our best shot.
Fantastic. Well, I guess you've kind of probably skipped over a few of the things I did want to ask about, like that Olympic team, but you did start your career as a 15-year-old with Knox in the CBA. How was that, I guess, early experience for you? And then you went to college in Pennsylvania. I guess, how did that transition come about?
Yeah, no, well, I was about 15, so it was early 80s, 1982, something like that, 83, when I got the chance to suit up in the, I think it was SEABL back then. Which is, for the current audience, we'll just call it NBL 1. But they did have a few changes, as you said. They were CBA for a while there. They went to SEBL, I think. And
that's right.
But anyway, it's all NBL, NBL 1, I guess. The mighty Knox Raiders, who have gone back to back, mind you, in the NBL 1. But so I got my chance there at senior basketball, and I got to play with guys like Robbie Ball, and Mike Slusser was the coach out there. Daryl Timian was the coach for a while. We had a pretty good team. Neil Beaker, Bruce Beaton was in the team. Mel Davis, who was some of the other guys from the old days. But no, that was a really good experience because I got exposed to senior basketball at an early age. And then by the time I got to sort of 18, 19, 20, I was starting to, I was a starter and I was playing well in the NBL 1. And that's when I got recruited to go to play college basketball. So that's when in 1988, I went over to Slippery Rock University, a Division II school.
So before you get to that, though, one of the reasons that I read in that great one-on-one article of you shooting out of the car, which we can get to another time, but was that when you heard the story on the school, it was rated by Playboy as one of the top 4 party schools in the nation. Was that a influencing factor?
Yes. I was a young man, 19, 20 years of age, and I guess you could see where my focus was, TV. It was actually ranked in 1988 Playboy. You can look it up for all those people out there that might have some old copies. In 1988, it was actually voted the 4th party school in the nation, and that included all the Division 1 schools, all the beach schools, the Santa Clara, Santa Barbara's, ASU, I think Arizona State Uni in Tempe, Phoenix was considered a pretty good party school.
John Redditch, alumni from there?
Who's that?
John Redditch, Bendigo Great.
Is he an ASU alumni, is he?
Arizona State, yes.
Arizona State, there you go. Yep. Tony Ronson played a year there too. So
there
you go. I didn't know Redditch.
Redditch had the option. Redditch's options was between there, Creighton, and Arizona had Iguodala in the 3. Creighton had Kyle Korver. So he's like, if I want to play in that 3-4, I probably should go to Arizona.
Oh wow. Good story. No, that's a good. No, that's good. So so little old Slippery Rock, a Division 2 school, was considered a pretty good a party school. Which
did it live up to it?
No, it definitely did. Although it was a bit of a culture shock because the drinking age in Pennsylvania was 21, and of course in Australia it was 18. So
and how old were you when you went there? 19.
I was actually 20. I actually turned 21. 3 weeks into my stay there, so I became a lot more popular on the team once I hit 21 because then I could the liquor store, as they called it back there. They don't call it the bottle-o. it was the liquor store, so I could go to the liquor store and buy the liquor for a few of the boys that weren't quite 21 yet. So that was a great experience.
Well, that moves me on to another story that I heard, which was when you were with the Magic, I believe, under Brian Goorj, and it might have been South Melbourne in your early career after a pre-season tournament. I think you got dragged. I hadn't played that well, but yeah, then you were the first one to walk on the bus with a six-pack under each arm, and Goorjian wasn't too happy about it. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the early years of the Magic. Well, the first tournament, I think the first time I actually went away.
Mhm.
Yes. And I guess I needed some lessons in culture because Brian Goorjian was always big, even back then in the early 90s, he was just big on culture and all that. And of course, I sort of had a different feel of things. You know, I was a bit of a party guy. So we were playing in the Kmart Classic. It was called the pre-season tournament up in Sydney. And it was sponsored by, Tui's and whatnot. So, so we had an esky in the rooms with all, six packs and whatnot. So I thought, oh, yeah, here we go. We don't play till tomorrow night. I'll grab a couple of those and walk out of there. And, it's fair to say that Brian Goorjian had a bit of he had to have a bit of a chat to me. And he said to me, not so many words, that, hey, things are a bit different here. And we've got a bit of a culture. So, it took me a little while to get used to it. But once Brian sort of showed me the way, I was more than happy to fall in line. And I think that happened sort of in March. And then by October, November, I was an NBL champion. So I'm glad I accepted Brian's ways and, which were winning ways.
Bit like Dallas when Luka Doncic, they took the beer off him after the win. Maybe Luka didn't.
I know. I remember that. I remember seeing that video. Was that Nico that did that?
Was it either him or Finley? I think it was Nico.
Because I recalled that the other night. I remember thinking that the other night. Yeah, and it was. It might have been. Was it after the playoffs last year?
Yeah, it was the semi-final. I think he was talking to Michael Finley, or Finley might have been there, and then Nico. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, or it was someone. Yeah, it might have been Finley.
Mm.
Yeah, it might have been. It was someone. Anyway, but they were. They were on Luka about. A similar sort of thing. Although in saying that, Luke was 25 at the time.
Yeah, exactly.
You think he'd probably know a little bit better, but
it's also the European culture.
You're talking about someone.
Yeah,
but you're talking about someone who's just super talented too.
We won't go into the Luka rant. We should save that for another.
No, we won't go into that. But we will. I will say that it wasn't that unexpected because I had heard that. Strangely, I had heard that the Mavericks were looking at him and the way he looked after himself, and they weren't necessarily that keen on giving him the Supermax. So, even though the way it went down, we could have 2 episodes on that one, mate.
Yeah. But, Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they're the Las Vegas Mavericks in the next couple of years. By the way, that ownership group's handling everything, but we'll save that for another pod.
That is one of the conspiracy theories going around. Yeah.
And I won't guess your sources, but maybe a former teammate who had a little bit to do with Texas basketball might be part of it. But back to your career. I mean, just a couple of quick ones. Who was your favourite player to play with, and who do you think was one of the best? Or one of your favourite opponents, or one of the best you played against?
Oh, wow.
Keeping in mind your career, I guess, was from the mid-'80s to the late '90s for those.
Yeah, well, I mean, Andrew Gay, I can't go past Andrew Gaze as far as it was night and day, depending which end of the floor you're at with him, because I would have nightmares trying to guard him, okay, because defense wasn't my thing, and he was...
I'd probably say the same about you, mate.
The most gifted thing. Well, maybe not, but maybe not to that level. But I will say down the other end, if he was guarding me, my eyes would light up. And it was just so different. Like down one end, I was petrified of the man. Down the other end, I was always hoping he'd come to me. Because he didn't used to sub out much. So it's fair to say he probably used to rest a little bit on defense. And
what do you used to even though I wasn't... He used to say, I'm happy to give up 2 on defense, but I'm taking 3 at the other end.
And he forged a career off that, and he did pretty well out of it. So,
but saying that, perhaps that's why in those game 3s, in those short turnaround series, you guys might have had an advantage against the Tigers team that didn't really play more than 6.5 guys.
No, we did until they got us in '97 when they got Timmins on that run, and they got us that year. So,
Sorry, what about talking trash back in the day? Obviously, a lot of 90s basketball was based around a lot of trash talk. Was there a bit that
Oh yeah,
you were someone who liked to rev up the crowd, your teammates and the opponent?
oh yeah. No, I'd get into it. Yeah, I was. I mean, the two guys that comes to my mind it was Leonard Copeland.
Hmm.
Um, D-Mac was good at it too because he would just say he'd say the right thing at the right time, and you just whenever he'd talk, you'd always think, oh geez, here we go, because he'd always back it up.
Yeah.
Scott Fisher, I remember having a few little chats with him on the court at certain times, but no, it was generally fairly. It was reasonably, in good spirit generally. The trash talk. I'm not sure what it's like nowadays, but I think people are a bit more precious nowadays with things like that. But
Well,
no, there was.
there's a lot more microphones close to the court as well, players mic'd up and what have you. I think they have to be a little.
Yeah, maybe they're a bit more careful, and yeah, but I just think there's nothing wrong with some good trash talking, but it's got to be a bit witty. It's got to have a
Yeah.
bit of a laugh to it as well. Like, yeah, I don't think I think saying personal things to people, I don't think that was ever really part of it back in the day too much.
Mm.
Although Ray Gordon and I used to say a few things that we'd probably be embarrassed about if we had to repeat them nowadays. But yeah, you do say some things in the heat of the moment, and at certain times. But it's all fair in love and war, I think. And it's yeah, I think there was some pretty good trash talkers, back in the day. That's for sure.
And what do they say? Most NBA fights are over card games or women. So there's a couple of the things that can come up.
Yeah, no, exactly, and yeah, and especially with a lot of the NBA guys, they'll play shooting games as
Mm.
well, not just card games. They'll play shooting games for like money, and
Yeah.
when I say they play for money, I'm not talking $10, $20. I'm talking
Yeah.
in the thousands. So
Houses
yeah,
and cars
yeah. I mean, we used to have a shoot around where sometimes the owner would throw $50 on a half court shot or
at the end
a
of
hundred
training or
dollars
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, on a shooting comp and stuff in a pre-game in a shoot around before a game or something. But
Yeah.
no, that was always it was always good fun.
Yep. Now I'm conscious of your time, so we'll skip through these last couple pretty quickly. But you won the MVP, the Most Improved Award in 1991. What were some of the things that you wanted to focus on in that season that you felt you improved the most that helped you obviously gain that award? And I guess what advice would you give for young players trying to improve within a season and also in that I guess that development era of early in their career?
Yeah, well, to use my saying again, you may see me struggle, but you never see me quit. I mean, I think I used to use that, with my basketball career because I had 2 years in the league after Slippery Rock with Geelong Supercats, Barry Barnes as the coach. And after those 2 years, I wasn't played that much, and I was kicked to the curb, and I didn't have a team. So going into that third season, what was meant to be my third season, I didn't even have a team. And luckily, I ran into Gary Fox at Albert Park, who had just taken over the Saints. And he said, look, I'd love to have you. I can see you playing a lot of minutes. I can see this happening. So I just jumped at that opportunity. And it was basically fair to say that was going to be my last opportunity. I was already, I think, 22, 23 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'd already had my NBL chance. Hadn't really done too much with that. But I'd done enough, I guess, for Gary Fox to want to pick me up for that Saints year. And that just turned out to be perfect timing because that was the year. And look, I really did, work on my game, relentlessly. I knew it was my last shot. So that year was really important. And to win the Most Improved really meant a lot to me because I went from not even having a team. So basically not good enough to even be in the league to then becoming an all-star, winning the Most Improved, averaging 22 points a game, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And in that last game, I got to play against the team that sacked me, and I had 50 on my old team. So that season was just a perfect season, the exact season that I needed. And it was perfect timing as well because that was the year at the end of the 91 season. That's when the Saints and the Spectres merged to become the Magic.
Wasn't
And
Brian
so it was
Goorj watching that 50?
perfect timing. Yes, well, there's another story about that game because he knew deep down by the end of that NBL season, he knew that the merge was going to happen between the Saints and the Spectres. Not many people knew at all. In fact, he would have been one of the very few that knew. So he'd had me in his sights to recruit me and so he went to the game with Bruce Palmer, and they sat in the Centre Club there, I think it was called, and they watched it on the in-house TV. And Brian said to Bruce, he said, "Hey Bruce, there's this kid Parky, number 14 for the Saints. I'm looking at picking up this kid, for the team next year. Let's do a shot every time he makes a field goal." And so, the two mates, Brian and Bruce, were like, "Yep, no problem." They were younger back in those days, 91. And so, to cut a long story short, I was 21 from 35 from the field, and I had 50 points. And so that's a lot of shots. So the way Brian tells the story, he tells the story far better than me, by the way. But basically the way he tells the story is that, by halftime, I think I had 30 points at halftime. I was definitely letting my previous coach, Barry Barnes, know about it. I definitely let him know my presence, that I was there, and I may have reminded him that he'd cut me earlier, only 7 months earlier. And I may have reminded him that there was a few people on the bench that he'd selected ahead of me. So I was definitely in a zone that game. And, Brian and Bruce had to get carried out in a body bag by the end of the game. So, that was a great NBL folklore story. And, it was, luckily for me, I played well enough, and Brian liked me, and, the rest is history.
Well, one thing I guess about that is we encourage responsible service of alcohol and responsible drinking, but also as your career evolved and you obviously adapted later in your career. But one thing that we used to play on the team bus was the Roxanne. You listen to Roxanne and you have to drink out of your left, because otherwise it's Buffalo and you have to scull. But Roxanne with the left and Red Light with the right. So maybe those who are having a bit of fun watching the Melbourne game this week, they might be able to play the same game with Chris Goulding at one end and Bryce Cotton in the other.
Oh, yes. Well, you could, there could be, you could get yourself into some trouble with those boys.
And speaking of bus trips, I mean, we touched on your early career, obviously spoke a lot about the middle with the NBL, with the Magic and the championships there, but you did finish it with Bendigo in 1999, and you just mentioned about how you had your big 49-point game against the team that cut you. Now, I've dug out a stat sheet here of that team, that Bendigo team in 99, just to make it relevant to wrap it up. But do you remember, I know it's probably a tough one, you averaged 17 points that season and 4 boards, but do you remember your highest score was 32? Do you know who you had that against?
No, it wouldn't have been Knox, was it?
Of course it was.
It was at Knox.
It was.
It was.
It's interesting how players get up against their former teams.
There you go. I'd forgotten that, obviously, but I was just guessing that. First of all, I can't believe I scored 32. It was Steve Delaveaga playing that game, because it was hard to get a shot up.
He might have been in foul trouble, maybe. I'll run through some of the names on that team, because whether you're
Justin Cass, Ricky Daniels.
Justin Cass. I'm surprised Justin Cass had a 21-point game as well. Again, you guys must have been in foul trouble that night in Mildred.
Yeah, what did Steve have? I
didn't know that game specifically, but Steve averaged 24 for the season that year. It was a 32-game season. His career high was 47 against Albury. His season high was 47 against Albury. His career high, he'd had a couple in the 60s. Also on that team was Ben Hunt, who obviously is now over working with the Dallas Mavericks. He had a high score of 29. An average 15 a game. Jon Croft went on to play in the NBL as well with the Giants. He was on the Magic as a training squad, West Sydney Razorbacks as well. And Ricky Daniels that season, his season high was 40 against Sydney. He averaged 26 points, 17 and a half rebounds, and over 4 assists.
Wow.
And that was when he won one of his 2 back-to-back ABA national MVP seasons. So it was a pretty solid team you guys had that year.
Oh, yeah. No, he was a beast, Ricky Daniels. And, of course, Steve was, could shoot the lights out. Dave Flint was a great coach. The experience of Justin Cass. Ben Hunt was a young fella. I think Ben Harvey was in that team too, wasn't he?
He came in a little bit after. He was with Hobart still at that stage, because they won 2000 when he was with Hobart against Damon Lowry's Kilsyth Cobras. Actually,
there you go.
But
there you go. I knew you'd know, TB. But yeah.
But the camaraderie, though, I know you spoke about that in the past, and I mean, just to wrap it up, but I mean, was that your last season playing, I guess, professionally? And
basically, yeah.
You spoke about those bus trips, and and what it was like, because the difference with, I guess, a country club and some of the city clubs, particularly driving to and from games, and that stage in your career, I guess, after the Magic had just merged with the Titans. So like at the start of your career, it was probably, I guess, when you're coming in and they merge, they want the younger guys that they can grow with, whereas at the end of it and a merger happens, it's probably the opposite, which we saw. Obviously, they took on Jason Smith, Drimmick, D-Mac, Ronaldson, Wheeler, Ben, Pepper. And so obviously you were one of the odd men out. And I guess speak to, I guess, that last that last chapter of your career.
Yeah, no, well, exactly right. You've said it. Yeah, because in '91, when the merge happened, Saints Inspectors, it was perfect timing for me. I was younger. I was in my prime. I had a good year, and a lot of just about every one of my my Saints teammates didn't get picked up. So, but then, fast forward 8-9 years later, and that same thing happened to me. I was at the end of the career, as you say, and then the merge happened with the Giants and the Magic, and to create the Titans. And at the time, I had a bad back, and Brian said, "Look, I had to take 5 guys from Magic, 5 guys from Giants, and he didn't have a spot for me." So yeah, that's when. So I trained with the Titans in Melbourne. I'd drive down to Bendigo for one night a week to train with the Bendigo boys, and then of course we'd have the games and the road trip. But I really enjoyed going back to sort of grassroots basketball in a way, because I'd experienced playing in the NBL one with Knox earlier in my career. So to go back sort of as a veteran, to help out the younger guys, and yeah, it was just refreshing, because I've gone from one system in the NBL where guys like Sam McKinnon and we're getting $20,000 or more, might have been even more from Nike, for all their gear, and then I go to Bendigo Braves, and a lot of the guys had to buy their own shoes, and so they're playing more for the love of it, so to speak. And yeah, some of the bus trips with the fellas were great, and we even had an end of season trip, which I think we did to the Gold Coast. Yeah, where we went away.
That didn't happen in the NBL in the 90s?
No, we would do end of season trips, but they'd be trips to college, where you'd go away. And so that's what you do in NBL. You'd play in winter. Well, in my day, you played in winter, and then at the end of winter, October, November, you'd go away and play against college, and that was kind of your end of season trip. But not everyone went, and it was generally to test out any new Americans you might wanted to play as well, and things like that. So it was a little bit different. Whereas this one,
relaxation.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas I really enjoyed, the fundraisers and things we did during the year to get the money to go away, on a trip together to the Gold Coast. I still vividly remember it. It was 25 years ago now, but yeah, and that just showed the camaraderie with the group that we had, and yeah, no, I really enjoyed that last year playing for Bendigo.
Well, we really enjoyed having you. I think I remember I was just hitting puberty. I think you're picking on me for trying to grow a mustache back then. I took it all in obviously good heart. So I've been working on.
Well, you can definitely grow a good one now, mate.
Yeah, it's filled out.
So, it took 25 years.
I'm still getting there. So no, well, we thank you very much for giving us your time and your expertise on trying to pick some finals games. We look forward to having you on perhaps in the off season or early next season as well. We might try and do some more picks throughout it and make this a bit more of a regular thing. It's great to have you here. Anything else you would like to add?
No, just thanks for your support in the past, and I love what you're doing, mate. So yeah, keep it up, and yeah, hit me up. Hit me up anytime.
I've got one little thing to show you before we wrap it up. A bit of nostalgia for you.
Yeah, I love a bit of nostalgia.
I found these in the box. Oh, I'll model back over. So we had one of the teams you started with. You had a cup of coffee with Supercats, is that right?
Oh yeah, 2 years, mate. 2 years is more than a cup of coffee.
And then the Magic.
I think I've got a Magic one.
And then I was the Giants. Oh, he's gone. But...
Look at this.
Oh, very nice. There you go.
I've got a Magic one, but I haven't got the Supercats one.
No Supercats. Well, you can't really tell, but over in the corner, I've actually got a North Melbourne Giants money box. It's about the size of your laptop. So they used to pump out the old merch back in the 90s, even the Coke cans.
There you go.
Yeah, well, there we go. And I like the poster on the wall, D-Mac in the background you've got there as you're knocking down a jumper over Rod Johnson. Looking at those jerseys, that might even mean the Giants championship year. So we'll leave it on that.
It was. And not the funny thing about that picture is that Brian Gordon used to tell me off. He'd always say, never dribble. Like what he'd say, why are you dribbling around D? He'd say, right. He'd say, he's just going to take it from you. He's like, what are you doing? So Brian used to tell me, Parky, if D-Mac's ever around you, he goes, just rise up and shoot it. He's like, I'd rather you just shoot it and get a shot off. He goes, otherwise, if you're trying to dribble it or trying to get fancy, doing something that's out of your ring,
Going to be 2 points at the other end.
So that's what that photo reminds me. It's like, so whenever D-Mac was in the vicinity, I'd just rise up and shoot it because I knew Brian, he didn't want me to put it on the ground or make a pass because D-Mac was so good at reading your eyes and reading passes and, getting a hand to the ball. So it's, but thanks for noticing.
I'd love the NBL to bring back the Golden Hands Award and call it the Darryl McDonald Award. I think that would be just.
Yes. No, that'd be good. Which was what, assists and...
It was assists plus steals minus turnovers.
That's it. Yeah, pretty simple.
Yep. Exactly. It's a stats-based one. It's not all narrative or story-based. It is. Yep. All right.
Well, I'll put you on the spot. Who won it this year in the NBL?
Who will win it this year?
No, who won the Good Hands Award for the regular season? Have you worked it out?
That's a good question. No, we'll have to have a look.
Come back with that one.
I would think maybe Davis. He led the league in assists. I'm not sure how many turnovers he had though. I would think Davis or Daly. Or maybe Shea Illy. The turnovers would be the one we'll have to check.
Yeah. Now Davis was the guy that came to my mind.
Yeah.
First up because he used to rack up a lot of assists. But, and he'd sneak a few steals in there. But that was D-Mac's award. He averaged 5 steals, I think, in 1994, the year he came out. I mean, can you imagine averaging 5 steals a game?
Dyson Daniels is doing it now in the NBA.
What? Is he averaging?
Over 3.5-ish.
Yeah, well, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah, 1 a quarter. Basically. It's crazy.
That's ridiculous that you can average 3 or 4 steals a game, let alone 5. But
his old man used to have some quick hands in the paint too, and some very shiny elbows, as we used to cop as well.
Oh yeah, they come in handy to help protect the ball. But
all right, thanks a lot, Parky. We'll touch base soon, and all the best with everything, whether it's Masters basketball or just living the dream.
Appreciate it, TB. Thanks, mate.
Peace, love, and hoops, mate.